National Press Club today, Professor Brian Schmidt and Dr Alan Finkel speaking about Australian innovation and research. Professor Schmidt was a 2011 Nobel Physics Prize winner for discoveries in astronomy. Dr Alan Finkel is Chancellor of Monash University and has interests in astrophysics, pharmaceuticals and neuroscience. Professor Schmidt and Dr Finkel at the National Press Club.
And even though it's a very basic thing to do, I'd just like to quickly define for this context what I see as research and innovation. And I'll quote from a friend of mine, Ramesh Mashelkar, a famous Indian scientist, and he defines research as the conversion of money into knowledge. And innovation is the next step. It's part of the virtuous cycle. Innovation is the conversion of knowledge into money. So it's an essential follow-on to the research step, and if we just concentrate on one or the other, we won't have the best possible outcome for the country. What I would call passive facilitation, which is the removal of hurdles. Removing a hurdle can do as much to progress a project as building a new roadway. Now, some examples of hurdles. One is the legal hurdle. I've just seen so many projects, it happens again and again and again, that get off to a slow start and have an inhibited progress because of the legal hurdles that are put in place, of innovation that's been applied that is absolutely globally significant in this country. And one of the award winners this morning was Rio Tinto, and I'm not sure exactly what led to their high citation, but on the innovation field they've been superb for many, many years. And one of the things they've done is they've defined the mine of the future. Now, if you like movies and you're interested in science, you've probably seen Avatar. Some of you might have seen a movie called Moon. And in both of these movies, the key activity that's taking place is mining on other planets. And the mining is done by these extraordinary large autonomous machines that seem to have a mind of their own. And in the movies, those machines are really bad for the environment. Well, Rio Tinto's also gone for high tech in their mining, and their outcome is actually good for the environment, but it's also good for their bottom line and for safety. What they've done is they've developed the machinery, whether it's tunnelling machines, whether it's the trucks that drive between the sites, the trains that go long distance, or the production drills that can be run with no human operators on site. Some of them are just completely autonomous, and some of them, there are operators like air traffic controllers back in Perth controlling machines that are operating the mine in the Pilbara. And you get the same kind of thing happening in Mongolia and Arizona and other places where Rio Tinto has been rolling out this very forward-looking technology. And that's the kind of innovation success that leads to higher levels of productivity that we should be absolutely proud of and seeking to duplicate throughout the country. Thank you.
Australia plays quite an interesting role. We are really unaligned with North America or the European Union. We're sort of a free agent that is able to do and go as we please. And we actually often serve as sort of a binding agent between other players, where we're sort of the middleman who can make things work together. And so in a disconnected world over the last several decades, this has served us very well because we've had a unique role. And we could work with anyone as it suits us and them. And as a partner, we've been very uncomplicated. We're people who just like to get down to business. So all my colleagues say, I love you Australians. It's uncomplicated. We just work on science. And so that has been a great aspect of us in the last 30 years. And the outcomes from this have been great. We produce 4% of the world's scientific output in terms of its impact, as measured by Thomson Reuters. And that's despite being less than 0.3% of the world's population. So we're very good at producing those scientific outcomes. Now I'm going to focus on science today, since Alan has already focused on the innovation. We clearly have some issues of translating that basic research into the rest of the country's economy, and that's something we need to look at, and it's not what I'm going to focus on today. In the Chief Scientist Health of Australia's Science, which was presented here last week, his papers showed that the things that we write are best when they engage with the rest of the world. So, for example, on average, when Australians write papers, they have some impact relative. That's not bad compared to the world standard. But when we write with people from North America, our impact is much higher. And if we write from people North America and Europe, our impact is truly profound. And so there's a reason for that. It's not just a selection effect. It's because we do better research when we're able to engage people with the skill sets that we may or may not have here in Australia. And I should also say that equation where we do better working with other people works both ways. If you look at the people in the US and Europe and how they do better when they work with us. Again, because we can provide interesting equipment and ideas and people. So these scientific collaborations are really, from my perspective, an entree into bigger things. They are the basis by which Australia can engage the idea of the brain drain and get brain gain, because you're continually exchanging people and ideas. And when we work with people overseas, people can see that Australia is a great place to do research. It really, truly is. It's not just, oh, we're going to go over to these great places in Europe and North America and lose all our people. It's only by going through and working with those people that we get people to come back. And so that's one of the reasons I was able to engage here. Is I had done some work here in Australia. I was very confident in the environment here. And for me and my wife, it was the great place for us to come and do our careers together. And certainly nothing that we're disappointed about in any way, shape, or form. So these engagements are how we are going to recruit the best and brightest students, young researchers, and even scientific leaders. So this helps us with our scale we have here in Australia. We're an economy of 23 million people, and really international engagement is essential if we're going to fill all the niches that we need to as a nation of scientific research. We cannot do absolutely everything. We're simply not big enough. Even the U.S. is finding it cannot do everything now. It has to engage. And I would say it's struggling a bit on that front. It has not had to do it like we have had. So the fact that we can't cover everything else is a good reason to engage internationally. And so these strong international linkages allow us to react to this changing landscape, which we cannot predict, and to essentially move in and do things which are interesting, things that appear interesting on relatively short timescales. Typically, we train people on timescales of 20 or 30 years, and unfortunately, the field's moving on scales of 5 years. And so we can be caught out short unless we have this international engagement.